The policies of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development are an assertive reflection of the avowed commitment of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led government to end far too many decades of reliance by Nigeria on importation of food to sustain the population. Right from his inauguration as president of Africa's most populous country and the bastion of what could truly be an awesome agricultural revolution, Muhammadu Buhari had told his compatriots that it is simply unthinkable that Nigeria, with its massive land resources, will still import food for consumption. This at a time when the country could not just stop at feeding itself, but further churn out agricultural produce and products in such quantity that the sector becomes a massive employer of talent.
Our quickest way of getting employment for those able-bodied persons, especially the youth, we identified as agriculture and mining. We have vast potentialities, as you just mentioned, in agriculture. Our rice is being dumped on us, is making it uncompetitive for our farmers. We have the land, we have the weather, we can grow rice. So let us wake up and be self-sufficient in food security.
President Buhari, in that interview shortly after his inauguration, was indeed setting the tone for where activity to reset the ills that had taken over the Nigerian economy were headed. About 1.5 years on, the APC-led government has remained steadfast in its projections on agricultural development. We need to emphasize here that the huge opportunity for youth employment, in particular, offered by agriculture, cannot be found in any other sector of the Nigerian economy. It is so massive that the Agriculture and Rural Development Minister is practically excited by it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to yet another edition of your program, Towards a Greater Nigeria. I remain your anchor Omotayo Omotosho. I recall sometime last year when I had the singular opportunity of being the very first TV journalist to interview our president, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. I did ask him one question, and the answer he gave showed that agriculture is the topmost priority of his administration. He did reiterate the point why we must go back to agriculture for us to be a prosperous nation. This explains why I've been knocking on the doors of our own honorable minister to take a cue from what the president did tell me, and of course told all Nigerians that watch the program, on how do they intend pursuing the agenda for agricultural revolution in Nigeria. So you may guess who my guest is tonight. I have the singular pleasure of speaking with a very, very dynamic and experienced gentleman, not only in the field of agriculture, but in the national economy, issues relating to economy generally, because I've had him on my program over and over again in the past 20 years. So when I said that, experienced and of course dynamic, I know what I'm saying. Please join me to welcome the Honorable Minister, Agriculture, simply called Audu Ogbe. Mr. Ogbe, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
My very first question, sir. You are the one in charge of this sector, and a lot of Nigerians are eager to know, to unveil the agricultural master plan for Nigeria, an offshoot of what the president did tell us sometime last year. Can you lead us into the overview of what the vision of the government is?
Well, thank you very much. When we came in November, the first thing we did was to redesign the roadmap. There were existing policies which were good under my predecessor in office, now president of the African Bank, Development Bank.
Dr.
We called a meeting in January in Kano. All commissioners of agriculture, most of the directors of the institutes, and sat there for like a week, redesigning the roadmap.
And because emphasis had to shift now from just growing food to accelerating food production, especially now that oil prices have crashed and our capacity to import, our dependency on imports, has to be curtailed and eventually eliminated. We had to redesign the roadmap. The work continued until the middle part of this year when we came out with a new program on agriculture called the Green Alternative. It says everything of what we want to do, where we want to get, but the summary is this. Establish self-sufficiency in your staples, mainly the grains and the tubers. Take a look at your capacity for the production of strategic items like milk, because we spend close to $1 billion on milk and milk imports. We can't afford it anymore.
Not anymore.
We talk of 37,000 children in Nigeria, 37% of our children malnourished and stunted.
Very true.
That is extremely dangerous because that's more than an entire generation of children. The prospect of young Nigerians growing into adulthood, totally, literally brain damaged, unable to comprehend in a knowledge-driven world, to participate in sports, even work in factories and on farms, is unthinkable.
And unacceptable too.
Unacceptable. So, proteins, vegetables, fruits, all those are part of those staples we're talking about. And so we went into this program very seriously in partnership with the CBN. We started the Anchor Borrowers Program because interest rates have been extremely difficult to handle here. Banks are suspicious of agriculture. They have not been able to get fully involved in it for the last 30 years. So credit has been a problem. Improved seeds have been a problem.
Exactly.
Mechanization has been absent.
Yeah.
We have less than 30,000 working tractors in this country. We should have over 1 million now. So where you find that you are not prepared to plow the fields, you have no improved seeds to plant, you have very little irrigation, you can't feed yourself. And the other side of the story is that the elite has been extremely scornful of agriculture.
I was just about saying that.
It's no longer, for the last maybe 40 years.
Yes.
In fact, since the Second Republic, when some major Green Revolution program was put in place, we've all walked away from agriculture.
We sure did.
If you tell somebody you're a farmer, it's a matter for laughter.
You're right.
If you go to a foreign airport and you say you're a farmer, you see excitement at the customs and immigration.
But not in Nigeria.
Yeah, you're told, oh, way, great, you're a farmer, wonderful, what do you grow?
Yeah.
And that's the conversation before they stamp your passport. You come over here and tell Nigerians I'm a farmer, and there's laughter, even among the elite, even the political class.
They should know better.
Yes, now that has been a problem. So there has been decline. We've walked away from agric. Now we've run out of resources to import. And we're angry that we're hungry. It's natural. If you're hungry, you're angry.
We'll be angry, yeah.
But who is to blame? As a country, we are all guilty.
Every one of us.
Every one of us. Because I was a new elite orientation. Leave agriculture to the nameless peasants, to those God-forsaken ones on the field who are tilling the soil, making absolutely no profit, but just trying to survive, who grow just enough to sell with nothing left to feed their families. They have been sustaining us. Well, whatever that is, it's time to change.
Real time to change.
Yeah, and so we've got to get back to reality. The beautiful thing, though, is that Nigerians are fantastic people. Their response to the call is simply amazing. And I want to use this medium to say, on behalf of the President, we are proud of Nigerians. Young people, educated people, the peasant farmers are all back with full commitment and vigor. That is encouraging.
It's good to know.
Because we're not only feeding Nigerians, we're feeding West, North, and Central Africa.
Yeah.
The demand for grains and food is so high that it's creating a new challenge, a good challenge. So that's where we are. The next stage, of course, is to develop the export sector. We dropped in cocoa from number 1 to number 7. We are now number 4 in cashew nuts. We were the world leaders in palm oil and groundnuts. We were great producers of soybeans, sesame seed. We exported hides and skins. All of that simply vanished. We became net importers, a nation of traders. We have to correct this. Unfortunately, you can't do it overnight.
No.
So when people say, Mr. President, we are hungry, we know. We know Nigerians are in pain. A family spends more than 60% of his earnings to buy food. What's left for rents and health and education and transportation and clothing? Nothing. So we are unhappy about it. The president is more worried than anybody can imagine, which is why in every conversation he talks about agriculture. And I said somewhere, the man himself is in pain.
Tell us.
Who wants to be president of a country where people are not happy?
Exactly.
And people are hungry? What does he gain from it? So when you hear people saying, oh, you promised us this is not the change we promised. It's a bit, in a way, it's a bit painful hearing that, because we who work closely with him can read his face.
You should know. Yeah.
When we meet with him, we see the pain. Before God and man, he would have wished for nothing like this. But it has happened. It was going to happen anyway, because the way the economy was going, the dependency on oil meant that once the oil and gas dried up, Nigeria would almost collapse.
The Nigerian Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development has a natural virtue, believability. We want to think that this interview has so far not just jogged your mind, it should by now have inspired your spirit. You may not want to walk away yet from your current duties to Nigeria's ever-expanding fields of green. But our ace presenter elicited more responses from Audu Ogbe, who to our knowledge is himself a farmer of distinction.
You're welcome back. And for those of you that are just joining us, I've been talking with our own Honorable Minister, Agriculture, Mr. Audu Ogbe, a gentleman that a lot of people refer to as a square peg in the square hole. When you listen to him, you know that he has a clear-cut vision of where he wants to drive agriculture to in Nigeria. You're welcome, Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
You have been advocating for self-sufficiency in staples, and you did mention some staples, cassava, yam, and so on. Yeah. What are the concrete steps being taken in this direction? Because the overview didn't give you enough time to tell us that.
First of all, improvement in seed supply. We're still not too convinced about GMO here, so we're dealing with hybrids. I have just finished a meeting with the seed developers here. They have attained quite some capacity, but they have shortfalls in finance. We're trying to arrange credit for them to continue working on improved seeds, so that farmers have good seeds.
Very important.
We have done something on fertilizer. We did a soil map of this country. Before now, people just thought that there was this fertilizer called NPK 15-15-15. The N is for nitrogen. The P is for phosphate. And the K is for potassium. And people thought that once you could apply that to the soil anywhere, it was a perfect way of growing your crop. After the soil test nationwide, we realized that there is no way you can apply that fertilizer for every crop in every state of the Federation. So we changed things. The results have been amazing.
Really?
Yes, up from 2 tons of rice per hectare. Farmers from Anambra, Ebonyi, all the way to Kebbi are harvesting 7.5 tons.
No wonder you kept on telling me we must go talk to some of the farmers.
Exactly. The same thing is happening with sorghum and millet. We've just been discussing maize now. There was an armyworm infestation of maize farms, which damaged a lot of crop in the second cropping. We just discussed that. We have to stop that, because the shortage of maize has doubled the price of poultry. One crate of eggs is now about 1,400 naira.
And it used to be about 700.
About 700. So again, we have to deal with that.
Yes.
So those steps have been taken. The other major step is the role being played by the CBN in the Anchor Borrowers Program. Farmers have always lacked credit. Some of the farmers now tell us that they used to sit in the halls of banks from 7 a.m. to nightfall, unable to talk to a manager. The manager has no time for this peasant farmer looking for 300,000 naira to buy petrol, buy a pump, buy some bags of fertilizer, and grow his stuff. With the Anchor Borrowers Program, the cash is literally delivered to the farmer, the equipment.
Yeah.
And the results have been amazing. I mean, we will have to go on a trip. So you talk to farmers yourself and hear what they have to say, that for the first time, they are beginning to get rich.
Nigerians will want to hear them
A
talk.
farmer in Katsina told me he just sold sorghum for 4 million naira in one day.
4 million.
He had never seen so much cash.
Interesting.
Another one in Jigawa sold a ton of rice for 130,000. And he said to me he was going to give out half of the money to people to go and pray for the president because he never thought he could earn so much money. You will talk to farmers from Ebonyi, Anambra, wherever you go, or Ogun, where we went to a major fish colony, and see the kind of incomes farmers are making now. For the first time in a long, long period of our history, people are making money from agric, which is what encourages us to invite younger people to come in. Because
I was just about saying the role of the youth.
yeah, the present and the future is about them. If they can't feed themselves, our population is approaching 200 million, heading for 500 million in 34 years. If we add that what is coming from North Africa and West Africa and Central Africa, who will feed this crowd? The answer is not in crossing the desert to Europe. And the answer is not in trying to import. How much money do you have to import food to feed 500 million people?
Exactly.
We'll become the third most populated country on planet Earth after China and India. Right now, I was in Germany and we had a seminar on population and food. More children are born in Nigeria in a day than in the entire European Union
Combined.
on the same day.
I get the point.
And if you go around places like France or Italy, it's very rare to see a pregnant woman. The Japanese are having the same problem. They say they are too busy, and so they don't have time. The population is declining terribly.
Well, we're increasing here.
Over 60% of them are above 65. But over 60% of our population is below 35.
Very true.
So we're a young nation. So we've got to eat. We've got to grow the food.
Yeah.
And so everybody must come on board. But the beauty is Nigerians are responding. They're responding.
I'm glad to hear that, Honorable Minister. Let's go specifically to rice revolution and importation. You did mention a bit of it. Basically talking of wheat and soya beans production. How far would you say we've gone? Or what are your dreams? What are your plans?
We need about 2 million tons of soya. We don't have it yet. We are importing soybean cake from Argentina and Brazil. We should stop that. But Kebbi did 100,000 hectares of soya this season. They're harvesting now. Benue did about 40,000 hectares. I told the governor a few days ago in the house, double it. We should hit that margin by the next cropping. If you go to Ebonyi and Anambra and Kebbi, Jigawa, Kano, the quantum of rice turning out now is so high that not a single one of the local rice mills today is short of paddy.
Interesting.
Paddy is the raw rice.
Yeah, you mentioned.
We've gone around all of them. They are all busy. They are milling. Much of this rice hasn't got to Lagos yet. So people in Lagos call and say, but you say there's rice, we can't see it. I'm sure you've heard of Lake Rice, Lagos, Kebbi. We are going to put 2 big rice mills in Lagos before the end of April.
I got special.
And
rice.
yes, to mill the rice in situ. Because those who think that importation is a solution are making a mistake. Imported rice, the way NAFDAC has analyzed them in the labs, is not a solution. Some of that rice has stayed too long in silos, some 6-7 years.
Some of them are plastics,
Yes,
as we were
exactly.
told.
Because the Thai people and the Vietnamese don't eat parboiled rice. They parboil for us. They eat white rice. A lot of ships, nearly 571,000 tons, either off the coast of the Republic of Benin or in warehouses, hoping to get in here for Christmas. We don't want that. Rice is not banned yet. If you must import, come through the port and pay the levy. But at current exchange rates, if you bring in your rice through the port and pay the levy, you can't make profit. And number two, since Nigerian farmers are willing to grow rice,
why don't we
and make money,
exactly,
and become richer, and look after themselves and cut down the crime rate, why should we transfer our jobs to sustain other economies, make them comfortable, bring in poverty and unemployment, deplete our foreign reserves, and sit here complaining?
It's not wise.
So it may not make sense to some people. All they say is, if the price is high, let's import. You can't even pay. The demand for forex in this country is so huge.
It is.
If the CBN was to open the floodgate, in a month, we'll be totally bankrupt.
Very true.
So rice is coming. In every crop area, every value chain area that we're dealing with now, all the farmers are waiting for is, please go this way. And they ask you, are you sure there's a buyer? That's it. And in that regard, there's a new crop we're going into called pulses.
Yeah.
Pigeon pea and lentils. The Indian High Commissioner in Nigeria sat here about a month ago and asked us if Nigeria can grow pulses for them. And I said to him, we can. The market in India is $100 billion US.
100 billion.
Because there are 1.2 billion Indians. They eat this thing almost daily, 3-4 times a day. They have a contract with East Africa now to produce. East Africa doesn't have the population to meet the challenge. So we're going into that. And I told the Indians, give me 3-4 years, we'll take 25% of your market. It's an area to get young people in, grow it, we buy from you, process, clean, and ship to India. There's a demand, there is a demand. In the US, a 1.5 kilo tuber of yam goes for $15 US. They're looking for palm oil in the US. They're looking for all kinds of things there. We have just seen a team here that came to do certification of our produce for export. Once we complete the process, we can then move our goods into the US market and begin to earn the forex we desire. Next year, we are launching cocoa. Relaunching cocoa in Ondo State.
I can't wait for that.
Our target is 5 million trees a year.
5 million, you said?
5 million trees of a new variety that yields in 2 years. And we will achieve it because there's no reason why Nigeria should be number 7. For cashew nut, we're doing 2 million trees a year. 4 years from now, we want to be number 1 in the world, processed here. This year, we sold raw cashew worth $500 million. If we had roasted it, we would have made 1.2 billion. So we will grow the cashew, roast it here and export it, and make juice from the fruit. It's a very good source of vitamin C. These are the programs we're working on. And because of this response and the support of the CBN and the imminent reform of the Bank of Agriculture, we have no reason not to attain our objective.
And while the Nigerian Ministry of Agriculture engages cautious optimism to the emerging self-sufficiency in food production, further attention is being focused on the building of infrastructure to enable the country join the League of Nations, which are gaining a lot from agro-allied services. The days of industrial boom in agriculture are only a matter of time. Yes, out there, the fields are getting greener.
Well, viewers, this is where we call it a day on the expose, the public enlightenment package on the agricultural sector. Of course, as you know, the assignment is a continuum. We cannot bring to you all the happenings, the good tidings within the sector in one program. So we'll definitely continue next week with the concluding part of this documentary. I've been your hostess, Omotayo Motosho. And for you to evolve a better and greater Nigeria, it is your responsibility and mine. We don't leave it to the government alone. You've heard from the Honorable Minister. Government is more than ready to do the needful. Are you ready? God bless you. See you next week. Bye.